What is going on, everybody? Back with some EPL finally. Feels like it's been forever since we had some EPL on the weekend here. So, after the week off, we've got 3 games. So, probably not exactly what we were looking for in terms of the main slate versus some showdowns. We get the 2-game main slate at 10 o'clock tomorrow. And then we've got Tottenham and Leicester, which we'll be talking about here at 12:30 for the showdown slate, which I think is the showdown of the week over on DraftKings. So I'm here to break that down. I'm going to kind of give an overview. We'll go through cash games, and then we'll also move over and talk about some tournament strategies for that showdown slate tomorrow. Obviously, have the cheat sheet up over here. Be sure to go over to RotoWire and sign up. Get your cheat sheets for every showdown slate that we have here and main slates, which you can see across the top there over on the screen here, right across this side. You can see every slate, whether it's Yahoo, FanDuel, DraftKings, whatever you may be interested in there. Kind of an interesting one here today. We get the two teams that are kind of going in opposite directions. You've got Leicester, who is coming off, I think it's 5-game losing streak in the EPL. And then you've got Tottenham, who, yes, struggled midweek against Sporting in the Champions League, but going off quite the unbeaten streaks before that in the EPL. So Leicester, towards the bottom of the table, struggling defensively, a lot going wrong. Now they travel to Tottenham and very tough spot for them. I mean, obviously, we're going to want to target a lot of Tottenham. If you look at the odds, heavy favorites here. On the cheat sheet, you got 64% chance to win, and you got 67 implied clean sheet odds there as well. 2-1 with the total of 3 in this one. Definitely got to side with the Tottenham side, even though Tottenham can be pretty frustrating from a DFS standpoint, especially in a showdown slate, because usually their production comes from just a few guys, right? So it's kind of tough to build out a 5-man stack of Tottenham, which you might want to do here. And I think that's probably the right way to go. In cash, we're definitely going to want to start with them. If you have played a lot of DFS soccer, followed RotoWire for a while, we want to target set piece takers, especially in the showdown slates in the captain and cash games. It just gives you a very high floor lineup that you can build from there on. So you've got Son, who takes most set pieces for Tottenham. You do have Perisic there now, who you can see has taken some, but let's see, last game 10-0, 3-1 before that. Couple games before that, it was 6-2 and 3-4 with Perisic up 1 there on Son. But got to lean Son 10-8 here on the showdown slate. I think is just a guy that has such a high floor that you can't really get away from him in cash games. Possibility that he could sit. I mean, definitely need to watch for lineups. That's going to play probably a little more into the 2-game classic slate, where we're not going to have this game's lineups before lock of the first game. So definitely in that one, you're going to need to have some contingencies to be able to move to. But for showdown, we'll know that lineup an hour before lock. So definitely interested in Son as long as he's in at 10-8. 7,400 for Perisic makes quite a bit of sense also for cash games. I think you're just going to need to find possibly a punt. There's a couple of guys for Tottenham that I like from a punt standpoint that we can kind of grab these sides that we really want to target for Tottenham. The center backs, I think, have a little bit higher of a floor than what we're used to seeing from center backs, and usually I stay away from them in cash games especially, but in a game where I think Leicester struggles against set pieces, that just ups the floor of both GPP plays. But if you need to fill in a punt with like a Romero, Davies, Dyer, one of those guys. I think you can definitely do it to make things work. Lloris is only 5,800, which is kind of cheap in a cash game. You're used to seeing, or 4 cash games, you're used to seeing on these showdowns. This heavy of a favorite probably being close to 7K for the goalkeeper. I know Lloris has a tendency to be stained a little more than some others, but I think you can definitely consider him here. Looking through some of the other prices on the Tottenham side, Kane 12.4. That's a tough spot for me. Obviously, favored to score -125. But that's the same as Son, who's 10.8, 1,600 difference, and we know that Son has set pieces over Kane. So definitely prioritizing Son more in cash game settings for sure over Harry Kane. You got Richarlison, who's projected in, could be Kulusevski. Definitely need to watch for that. Richarlison 10.4. Kind of a tough price, probably definitely more for GPPs there. If you can jam 2 of those in, though, we know where the production is coming from, probably on the Tottenham side. It's those 3 guys for the most part, with some Perisic in there as well. Let's see here. Let me sort back. Perisic, like I mentioned before, 7,400. Fine cash game play if you can fit him in there. Højbjerg, 4,600. If he's a last spot in, I think you could go there. Not a guy that I'm going to obviously prioritize even as a value. I would like to go down lower for some of these center backs who I think have the upside of firing in a few shots. Romero, 4,200. Absolutely love him in some of these GPP contests, which we'll get to in a second, to look a little bit more on correlation for there. But I think he's fine in cash games too, even at 4,200, because he fits in, makes things work in these builds, has some clean sheet correlation with Lloris as well. Dyer is 4,200, and then Emerson out on the wing. 8,200 is a tough price for me. I don't see myself getting there on the showdown slate for cash games. I don't see paying 8,200 there. On the other side would be Perisic out on the wing. Bentancur, let's see, he's sitting at 4,200 again, kind of last spot in. I prefer Højbjerg on that side. Definitely just the thing you want to make things work. Get 5 of those in there if you can, 4-2 if not. I think you can definitely do there. I want to shift over to the other side, and this is a good sheet to look at floor points, especially out on that right side. You got Richarlison, projects for 12 floor points. Romero is at 5. Emerson's at 7. Højbjerg at 5. Kane, a nice floor for a forward at 10. Perisic at 9.5. Obviously has a good floor. And then you've got Son, who has probably the best, even though he's not projected for the best floor based on historical stats opposed to Richarlison. But I would prefer that 12th floor for Son anytime there. On the other side, you've got Leicester. Usually who we're wanting to target is James Maddison, 8,800. It's a fair price for him, but in a matchup that they're probably not going to possess the ball a whole lot, I'm not sure that I'm prioritizing him in there. If I can find a decent build that has 1 or 2 values for cash games from the Tottenham side, like I mentioned, some of those defenders, yeah, sure, let's get him in there. He would be the first guy if price doesn't matter for your 1 or 2 Leicester pieces. Some of the other options, you got Dewsbury Hall, 7,000. He has a decent floor, and Tielemans, who would have much more of a floor if Maddison was out, 6,600 in that mid-range. Really what I'm looking to do in cash games is probably not pay up for anybody other than James Maddison, if I can get there. I'm not prioritizing Jamie Vardy at 6,800 even. Sure, for GPPs, if you want to go there and play the complete opposite script of what I'm looking at, then yeah, you could definitely go to Vardy at 6,800. There's a chance that he sets, and you could get Daka in there at a very similar price, or Iniacho at 5,600 would be a little more enticing to me in GPPs as well. Harvey Barnes 8,000. Don't think I can get there unless you were playing like I said, the complete opposite script. In Diddy, 3,200 I think is a fine punt. Luke Thomas out on the wing I think is a decent punt. James Justin, not sure I even want to spend up to 4,400 for my Leicester piece there. Johnny Evans 32. Really, what I'm looking at in cash games for Leicester is, can I get James Madison in? If not, I'm probably punting my one or two spots on that side. Definitely some interesting ways to go for GPPs, though. Let's shift over and talk a little bit about that. I think there's some interesting ways you could go. So on the captain for GPPs, where Son is still probably the best overall play, but I think that Harry Kane makes quite a bit of sense as a pivot. He should still be fairly owned, but he could put in two, even throw in a Hattie here in this great matchup. So definitely more of a priority for me in GPPs because I want that upside that he possesses. You could throw Richarlison in there at the captain in GPPs. I think he makes a lot of sense. All three of those top guys for Tottenham make tons of sense for GPPs and the captains. I probably want to, if not jamming. I doubt you can jam all three, especially with one of them at captain. One build that I do want to play around with would be Romero at captain. Like I said, I think he has a good shot to hit a set piece goal from Son in this one. So I want to look at Romero in the captain and see it. Can that get me the three big pieces for Tottenham? I don't even know that that's possible, but I'd like to see if it is. If not, throw Romero maybe in the captain. I hope he gets a set piece goal. Throw Lloris in the utility, and then get two of those top three with Richarlison, Kane, and then Son also in there as well. I think that makes for an interesting GPP build. Obviously, my priority in GPPs from the top three is going to still be Son. I really like the spot for him tomorrow. I think he can absolutely smash with both the floor points and then the upside if he can put one in and get an assist as well. I think that's definitely in the cards. Richarlison, I think, would be right there just because of the discount with Kane, and he has tons of upside as well. And then, like I said, behind that in captain, I'm going to look at Romero, who I think is a great utility play as well. If to make things work, if you throw in one of those top guys and then come in, I don't think I would go. Captain Hugo Lloris, like I said, has a solid tendency to get stained. Not a guy that I want to throw in the captain. I just don't think he has the upside, especially in this matchup where I expect Tottenham to put in around three goals. I don't think he has the save upside to outdo what these goals are going to produce from a fantasy standpoint. So I'm looking much more on the side of trying to pick out the goals, and if it's the cheap way with Romero, so be it. I've kind of went through all the Tottenham pieces when we went through cash games, but coming back up to the projected lineup, I mean, honestly, all those guys are in play in GPPs. You can make a case for any of them, but priorities, like I said, would be two of the top three. Emerson, I think, becomes a little more interesting there for GPPs. We've seen him obviously get forward. He is going to have a decent floor with some upside. I just didn't like the price that much for cash games. I think it's somewhat of a pay up to be different spot in GPPs. Makes a good pair with Lloris. Maybe even throw in him with Romero and Lloris for just the full-on clean sheet stack and hope Tottenham scores one or two, doesn't give any up, and there you go. Pick out the goal, get the clean sheet, and the win. And I think that's a nice build if you can pick out the decent scorer from the Leicester side. So Hoiberg has always been, like I said, on the cash game side, one of those last guys in. I think his value is even more in GPPs. We saw him score this year twice already, so we know he has the upside to be able to do so. Romero is probably my favorite value on the entire slate in cash games and GPPs, though. Really like his floor just from the shots and the clean sheet odds, and then also the upside of potentially scoring one of those set piece goals. If you're playing him in the captain, like I mentioned in that build, I think Son is a must with him, because if chances are if Romero scores, Son's going to be involved in some of that set piece, unless it's one of those that it's a rebound goal or something like that. But I love the correlation with Son and Romero. I think that makes tons of sense. Or you could go the opposite side and say Perisic with Romero. And hope that Perisic is taking the set piece when it happens. But really like both of those as a pairing as for that correlation. On that other side, if you wanted to play the complete different game script, where do you go, right? If you don't believe in Tottenham as me, and you think Leicester comes up off the bottom of the table tomorrow, and you want to be just completely different in GPPs, where do you go? I think you kind of start with a fair price on Jamie Vardy if he's in, or I mentioned if we could get in some of those other guys like Daka or Iniacho, I think that's a fair price. It's just all about, can that game script get there at 6,400 for Daka, 56 for Iniacho. So definitely in play on that game script. I think that makes quite a bit of sense. James Maddison obviously would be the top captain play for Leicester on that side, and Harvey Barnes would also make some sense at 8,000, and hope that he's one of the guys that can score a goal. You can also play the script that this is not a clean sheet win for Tottenham, and then kind of avoid both goalkeepers and go with some of those guys I already talked about on the Tottenham side, but also run it back with a couple of the goal scorers or somebody with Maddison, Madison and Vardy or something on the other side. And hope it's like a 3-2 or 2-1 or something like that, and the clean sheet doesn't get there. Lloris has 2 saves and a goal allowed and a win, and that's not enough. Who knows? But that's kind of the route that I would go. Just try to pick out the goals, because either way, I don't see Leicester dominating possession. So I don't even think a 5-1 Leicester sack makes any sense, even if you think they win this game. I think if they win this game, and you want to go with one of them at the captain, you're picking out the goal, you're playing 1, maybe 2 more, and then you're coming back on the other side with the Tottenham pieces who have such a nice floor in a game. If they're playing from behind, they're going to have even more crosses and things like that. So Son makes tons of sense in that type of build. Kane makes tons of sense in that build. Wouldn't play Kane if you're going with Ward. Ward's, underdog goalies, if I like the underdog, in this case I don't, but if I did like Leicester as an underdog, I love playing the goalies in Showdown, not in the captain, but in the utility, because what they're going to do is they're going to have so many saves by, say, Tottenham coming back and just forcing in maybe some bad shots and things like that. And then at his price, I think, if he could somehow have a clean sheet win, he's on the winner for sure. So I would, if you're going on the Leicester side, making a 1-0 Leicester build, that script makes a ton of sense. I just, in this case, don't like it. I try to talk myself into that build a lot, and I can do it. Just here, I see 2 teams going in completely different directions, and it just doesn't make sense to me. James Justin, would make a little bit of sense, or Johnny Evans as a pairing on a set piece goal there for him. They did, and I'm going to butcher a name even worse than I usually do here, but a lot of projections that we're seeing, as well as ours here, have Wout Face at 3K min at center back as a projected guy in there. Um, I don't know much about him, but obviously could be a target on set pieces, could be your full punt if you're going on the Tottenham 5-1 build. If you want to go to that route and just throw in the min price, I would probably hope that the 20 or the 200 for Ndidi was there, that I could go there. That's kind of where I'm at on this one. I will be in the Discord um, right around lock, especially when lineups come out, to answer any questions on the showdown, update any of my thoughts on this one. But it definitely should be a fun one. I think we're going to have some interesting uh, builds here. Like I said, love Romero. Just to recap, as a core play, Son makes tons of sense in there as well. So those would be the top two overall plays on the slate at the top and bottom. Cash games, I'm going to prioritize Son and the captain. GPPs, you can really go anywhere on the Tottenham side, in my opinion, but I'd still like Son quite a bit. And then, like I said, Romero in there for GPPs and the captain to allow you to jam in a lot of these guys at the top of the pricing. So good luck to everybody tomorrow. I hope everybody has some success on today's slate that is still going on. And then also the early showdown and the two gamer tomorrow. Good to have some EPL back. Good luck.